Welcome to Canada Inside, where clarity meets courage, and every truth deserves to be heard. While mainstream voices push the same tired stories, here we dig deeper, question the powerful, and reveal what others won't. You won't get empty headlines, you'll get context, facts, and real talk. So hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, and more importantly, make your voice count in the comments. Because together, we'll bring truth back to Canadian politics. The political weather in Canada is shifting. Beneath the polished speeches and orchestrated press briefings, there's a quiet storm brewing, one that could reshape the balance of power between Ottawa and the provinces. At the heart of it, two names: Mark Carney, the newly minted Prime Minister and a longtime ally of the Liberal establishment, and Danielle Smith, Alberta's Premier, vocal, strategic, and anything but apologetic. When Danielle Smith traveled to Ottawa, she didn't do it as a guest or a spectator. She came with a purpose, 9 clear demands in hand, drawn not from ideology, but from deep provincial frustration. These demands weren't radical, they were rational, at least, for those who understand the widening disconnect between Alberta and the federal government. She called for autonomy over natural resources, a rollback of overreaching climate restrictions, and a serious reconsideration of policies that, in the eyes of many Albertans, have left the province shouldering Canada's economic burden, while being punished for its productivity. She didn't come asking. She came negotiating. And behind her calm tone was a clear signal: we've waited long enough. Mark Carney, for his part, responded with the calculated restraint of a central banker turned politician. His words were measured, his gestures cordial. But under the surface, his team knew they weren't just dealing with political posturing. Smith's ultimatum, 6 months to see federal movement or face what she called a national unity crisis, struck a chord far deeper than anyone in Ottawa wanted to admit. To understand the stakes, you have to look beyond the headline. This isn't just about pipelines or emissions targets. It's about the soul of federalism in Canada. About a province that feels exploited, voiceless, and some would argue, deliberately ignored. And it's not just Alberta. Across the West, there's a growing sense that Ottawa governs with one eye on urban votes and another on global trends, leaving behind the workers, families, and communities that keep the country running, but who rarely make the front page. Danielle Smith knows this. And more importantly, her base knows it. That's why she can speak not just as Premier, but as a proxy for something bigger: the Western pushback against centralized power. Yet in public, her message is anything but inflammatory. No threats of separation. No reckless slogans. Just logic and pressure. Pressure on a federal government that's lost credibility in the West. Pressure on Carney, who now finds himself navigating not just economic recovery and global instability, but a domestic credibility gap that continues to widen. When Smith says, "We need action in 6 months," she's not bluffing. She's stating a political clock. One that ticks louder every time a federal policy sidelines Alberta's industries, stifles investment, or ignores local knowledge in favor of distant regulation. What's remarkable is the subtlety of her framing. Rather than positioning herself as a disruptor, she casts her message in terms of partnership. "Do us a solid," she says, echoing the kind of plain speech that resonates with voters who are tired of bureaucratic ambiguity. It's not radicalism. It's realism. Still, her message has rattled Ottawa. Not because it's loud, but because it's smart. Strategically delivered. Backed by years of economic contribution and cultural frustration. And when she reminds Carney that Alberta's patience is finite, the implication is clear: the political price of continued neglect may no longer be containable within the usual rules of debate. Carney, for his part, remains calm. But calm isn't consensus. And the question is whether his administration truly grasps the undercurrent flowing beneath the formalities. Does he understand that for many Westerners, trust in Ottawa has not just faded, it's fractured? Across conservative circles, there's cautious optimism. Not towards Carney. Few expect his views to shift dramatically, but towards Smith's capacity to extract meaningful change. To hold the line. To speak for those who no longer feel represented in a capital city more aligned with progressive think tanks than prairie realities. Even within Carney's own party, some quietly acknowledge the risk of underestimating her. Her approval ratings in Alberta remain stable. Her communication is precise. And her ability to project strength without outrage is exactly what sets her apart. She doesn't tweet threats. She delivers ultimatums with a smile and a calendar. Meanwhile, voices like Nahid Nenshi, familiar to anyone who follows Alberta politics, rush to discredit her message. They call her reckless, divisive, opportunistic. But those same voices rarely offer solutions, only slogans. And when Smith talks about pipelines, energy corridors, or the need to restore economic balance, she's not just politicking. She's channeling a broader mood, one that's growing louder, especially among those over 35, those with roots in resource sectors, and those who've watched their industries villainized in the name of federal optics. What's at play here is more than just a disagreement. It's a power recalibration. A moment where a provincial leader tells the national government, "We're not passengers anymore, we're partners, or we're out." Quietly, perhaps. But definitively. The next 6 months will matter. Carney can't afford to dismiss Smith as just another populist. She isn't. Her words are chosen. Her moves deliberate. She plays the long game. And she's betting that Canadians, or at least those outside the downtown corridors of Ottawa and Toronto, are ready to hear something different. Something rooted in sovereignty, balance, and fairness. Back in Ottawa, the Liberal establishment faces a dilemma. Concede too much, and they risk alienating their progressive core. Concede too little, and they fuel the narrative that the West doesn't matter except when it's time to collect. It's a trap of their own making. Years of climate legislation that punish producers instead of polluters. Years of dismissing Alberta's contributions while reaping its tax revenue. Years of treating energy workers like liabilities instead of lifelines. Smith isn't inventing these grievances. She's echoing them, refining them, giving them political teeth. And whether you love or hate her style, there's no denying her impact. Because for the first time in a long time, Ottawa is listening even if it won't admit it. As we watch this unfold, one thing becomes clear. This isn't just about two leaders in a policy tug-of-war. It's about the future of Canadian unity. About the boundaries of provincial autonomy. About the role of the West in a federation that often seems weighted in one direction. Canada Inside will keep following this story. Not with partisanship, but with purpose. Because when leaders like Smith challenge the status quo, and when leaders like Carney respond with cautious calculation, the outcome affects more than just political parties. It affects every Canadian who believes in fairness, accountability, and real representation. So we'll be watching. We'll be questioning. And we'll be bringing you the details that matter, stripped of spin, focused on facts, and grounded in the voices that too often go unheard. At Canada Inside, we'll keep tracking these critical developments, cutting through distractions to expose what really matters. Subscribe, stay sharp, and join us as we uncover the forces shaping Canada's tomorrow. Because truth deserves a voice, and here, your voice has power. Let's reclaim the conversation together.